You'd think the biggest historical mysteries start in some dusty old archive or an archaeological dig. But this one? It starts in 1980, in a place you'd never, ever expect. A church rummage sale.
Picture this. It's the spring of 1980. An author named Peter Vogel is just browsing a rummage sale in Santa Fe, New Mexico. He's looking under tables, and he spots a simple cardboard box. Little did he know what was inside would kick off a decades-long investigation into one of World War II's deepest, darkest secrets. So he opens it up, and it's like a time capsule, It's filled with old photo equipment from the 1940s, but tucked inside was something that just did not belong. Turns out, it was a document that had been swiped from the top-secret Los Alamos labs by a technician who'd kept it as a souvenir for over 35 years.
And get this. The title was History of 10,000-Ton Gadget. Now, this wasn't just some random paper. No, this was a full-on mathematical model, basically a blueprint for the atomic bomb. It laid out in stunning detail the physics and the expected effects of a nuclear detonation. One of the biggest secrets of the Manhattan Project, just sitting in a box. But here's where it gets really, really weird. The very last line. It described the bomb's effects, the mushroom cloud, in typical Port Chicago fashion. Now, you have to remember, this document was written before the famous Trinity test. So if Trinity hadn't even happened yet, how in the world could there be a typical fashion for a nuclear explosion at a place called Port Chicago? That one sentence, right there, it just blows up the accepted history of the atomic age. It forces us to ask two massive questions. What exactly happened to Port Chicago? And what on earth did it have to do with the A-bomb? To really get it, we've got to start with the official story.
All right, first up, let's get into the version of events you're going to find in pretty much any history book.
Okay, so here's the scene. It's the night of July 17th, 1944. A massive, catastrophic explosion just vaporizes the naval magazine at Port Chicago, California. We're talking 2 ships loaded with thousands of tons of conventional ammo gone in a flash. The blast killed 320 men, the vast majority of them African-American sailors. The event was so traumatic it led to the Port Chicago Mutiny Trials, a huge landmark event in the history of the civil rights movement.
So, the official word from the Navy? It was a horrific accident, a detonation of standard explosives. Tragic, for sure, but conventional, nothing nuclear about it. But that strange line in that Los Alamos document, well, it suggests a completely different story, doesn't it?
Okay, so now let's dive into the other side of this, the radical alternative theory from Peter Vogel, the guy who found that document. And Vogel's theory is, well, it's explosive in its own right. He claims Port Chicago wasn't an accident at all. He thinks it was the intentional secret test of a new experimental atomic bomb, the world's first nuclear explosion, a full year before the Trinity test. And the weapon at the heart of all this? It's fascinating. Vogel says they were testing something called the Mark II. Think of it as a smaller, tactical nuke. It used this really unique material called uranium hydride, and it was being developed on the side, separate from the big bombs they were building for Japan. It was kind of their secret, lower-priority side project.
Now, you gotta understand, the Mark II was a totally different animal compared to the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Little Boy and Fat Man, those were monsters, city-destroying strategic weapons. The Mark II, though, was designed as a low-yield battlefield weapon, and that distinction is absolutely crucial to understanding Vogel's theory.
Okay, but a claim that huge needs some serious evidence, right? It can't all just hang on one cryptic sentence in some old document. So, what's he got?
Vogel basically builds his case on a string of events that, let's be honest, look pretty suspicious. You've got top nuclear weapons experts showing up on site almost immediately. You've got a secret high-level meeting at Los Alamos just to talk about the data. And the real bombshell? An alleged cover-up right at the center of the official investigation. Just look at this timeline. For what was supposed to be a conventional accident, the top brass of the Manhattan Project were all over it, and fast. I mean, within days, Captain William Parsons, the head of ordnance at Los Alamos, is already writing reports on it. Then, just 2 weeks later, 3 of the world's leading atomic scientists, they call them the Three Horsemen, are flown to Los Alamos for a secret meeting to pore over the blast data. Does that sound like a normal accident investigation to you?
But here's maybe the most damning part of Vogel's entire argument. He claims the official investigation wasn't just sloppy, it was deliberately corrupted to bury the truth.
So the official Navy Court of Inquiry,
Their job was to figure out what caused the explosion. And one of the key guys on that court was a Captain John Crenshaw. Well, guess who his brother-in-law was? None other than Captain William Parsons, the very same guy from Los Alamos who was investigating Port Chicago as a nuclear event. Vogel argues this is a massive, undeniable conflict of interest designed to make sure the court's findings toed the line.
So what we're left with here are two completely different stories for one of the most deadly events on the American home front in all of World War II. On one hand, you have the official history, a tragic, conventional accident. And on the other, a secret atomic test, its signature mushroom cloud hidden in plain sight for decades.
It really all boils down to this fundamental conflict. Was it an accident, or was it a test? Was it some unknown trigger, or was it a new kind of bomb? A standard investigation, or a calculated cover-up? Was Port Chicago a story of tragedy and racial injustice, or was it also the secret dawn of the nuclear age?
The official record says one thing, but a single, cryptic sentence found in a cardboard box at a rummage sale suggests something else entirely. And it leaves us with this provocative question that's still hanging in the air almost 80 years later. What really happened that night at Port Chicago?